Welcome back to the talk show. I am Andra Hedden, and today I am joined by Steven. He heads the tele group here at Marketopia, and we are so excited to talk through some outbound marketing with you. Welcome, Steven.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Steven, give us just a quick nutshell. Obviously, I know that you head tele at Marketopia. Give us a baby background, and then we'll get started.
I've been doing telemarketing for roughly about 23 years. I've been all over the world doing it, in Philippines, from Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, and all over the country, setting up different call centers. So
Absolutely.
that's
And
what I love to do.
yes, and that passion is the reason why obviously you lead an awesome team today doing that. And so what we want to do together is really, we know that MSPs out there and vendors out there, everyone in the IT channel is really always constantly working on figuring out how to conduct their marketing strategy. And one big piece of that is outbound marketing. So we're going to talk through one piece of outbound marketing. Obviously there's trade shows, there's events, there's email marketing. Tele is a gigantic piece of that. So we're going to dig into that today and kind of talk through it a little bit. So talk to us a little bit, start us off. Talk to us a little bit about what is the craft of outbound marketing when it comes to telemarketing. Explain that to the viewers.
Well, I mean, to be a successful telemarketer in outbound telemarketing, it takes confidence. It takes a thick skin, because you get told no more than you get told yes. So it's being able to push through and get a lot of no's just to find that one yes a day, those two yeses a day.
Absolutely.
To be successful. So
takes a lot of confidence. Yes, it is an absolutely special person. We see that obviously every day. Yes, you have a team of awesome individuals, and I think that piece of outbound calling is something that is what terrifies anyone from getting into that. So underscore all of that is people are afraid of rejection. So that's why in the space that we live in, everyone loves a straight down the middle referral partner, sending them over a lead, or everyone loves that close that they know they're going to be able to close. But this last leg of setting that appointment, getting that on the calendar for a sales rep is so vital. We all know that. How to change an MQL, all those marketing efforts over here, into a qualified SQL. So give us some insight into the day in the life of a telerep. What does that look like? A successful telerep?
Coffee.
Lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee. It's calling through the leads and establishing which one of the leads are your hot leads. It's cleaning the leads to make them better. It's figuring out is this person the right person to be calling? Is this company in the right time to buy? There's a lot to go through it, but just in general, you're looking at a good telemarketing rep is going to make about 150 to 200 calls a day.
Yes, talk us through that. So I love the order that you just said those items because I think we can go deep in each of them. So that first piece, so making the calls a day. So it's a numbers game. We all know that.
Absolutely.
So making those calls. So talk through. We run what's called a blend here, right? But talk through what that looks like. So successful amount of calls a day. You said something around 150, but talk through ways to measure that. So if you're sitting there at the office right now and you're going, man, I've got a sales rep that I'm trying to hold accountable for setting their own appointments, which we'll talk about in a second, whether that is good or bad. And then the second part too is if they do have internal tele, or even if you've already outsourced your tele, what does success look like? It's hard for you to measure and say, oh, great, that company's doing a great job for me, or my internal team is doing a great job for me, if you don't know the metrics to measure by. So let's toss through some metrics.
Well, the two main metrics that anyone's going to measure a call center by are going to be your dials and your minutes, right? And depending on where you go, everyone has their own opinion of which one's more important, right?
What's your thought?
Neither.
Okay.
Right?
Or both.
Or both,
yeah.
Right? And I say neither just to throw people off, but the dials are just as important as minutes are just as important as dials, right? Yeah. It's like chicken and the egg, right? So, the way we run things, the way I've always ran things for the last about 10 years, as I started looking at it, I saw that, both sides were equally as important, but call centers would only really pay attention to one side, which would be frustrating. What you do is by saying, dials are the most important thing, you're bottlenecking your rep, and basically saying, hey, you have to get here to be successful.
Yeah.
Well, what if they can't get there? So if you say 200 dials are the level of success, what if the first 60 people pick up and they have great conversations with every one of them? So, what do you do then?
Absolutely.
Right? Does that mean they weren't successful?
Yep.
But by doing that, their talk time is going to shoot through the roof. Now, if you're measuring off of talk time, right, you say 3 hours is when successful. What if it's the day before 4th of July? What if it's snowing in the Northeast and that's where they're calling? It's going to be pretty hard for them to get somebody on the phone. Now, what they should be doing in that instance is they should be upping the amount of dials they make to be able to achieve their goal for the day. So by only measuring them on one of the KPIs and saying this is the most important one, this is the one that will make success, you're almost forcing your rep to do whatever they have to do
in order to be successful. No, I love that, because I think and this holds true not only just in tele, but in any sort of metric that you're measuring any team member on. So where you shine the light is where they're going to focus, right? So if you say, hey, dials is what success is, everyone goes over to dials. Well, to your point, if you're making 10 dials a day, 100 dials a day, 200 dials a day, because that's what's successful, you might even get off the phone a little sooner with someone because you've got to go get that next dial. You might cut an opportunity short because you know that success isn't talking to that individual, making sure that you've got a quality appointment getting set. You know that next dial is what your leader is going to look at you and say, that's success. Switch to your other point you're making is minutes. Well, if you're just talking, you're never going to be able to hit that number either, because it's a numbers game. If you're not making the amount of calls to get that percentage back, that 1 to 2 successes a day, it becomes very difficult, right? To please that client or your internal self, if you are the client that they're calling for. So no, I love that. So talk through a little bit about, and I love the point you were making also on being realistic during times of year and understanding when success can be achieved and what that success is supposed to look like during that time of year, I think is crucial. I know that you do an awesome job of making sure that that's balanced, saying, okay, great, it's a holiday, let's expect this. Let's make sure our clients know that this is what's going to happen because we know the trends in the space. We know what's going to happen. Talk a little bit about through the next thing you were mentioning. So we've got what success looks like. So talk time, minutes, dials, all that. Now let's talk about a successful call. What does when you get that appointment, that information that's getting gathered? You were mentioning making sure that you're gathering the right information on a call, and then you were mentioning making sure that opportunity is in the right place for buying. Talk through that a little bit for everybody.
Well, a successful call is, so you never want your appointment center to just set any appointment. If you really tried, you could set an appointment with anyone. It doesn't mean it's going to hold or it's going to be a successful appointment, right? So you want to build your appointment center based on quality rather than quantity, right? Whenever you push a telemarketing rep to do quantity, you're going to get exactly what you're asking for,
absolutely.
Right? So when we push them to get these appointments, we're looking for the quality. We want to make sure that we're achieving that band, that budget, that that authority, the need, the timeline, right? We want to make sure that the person that we're speaking with is a decision maker or is a heavy influence. We want to make sure that there is a real need, that there's a pain point. Right? So your rep has to be good at finding the pain point, because a lot of times you'll get on these calls and some of these people don't even realize they even have a pain. Right? But you have to be able to almost spin your way into it, and get them to self-realize that there's an issue.
Absolutely.
Right? Because in the digital world that we live in, some things we just take as this is just the way it is. Bad web service, this is just the way it is. The computer system, this is just the way it is. What are those things? What are those issues costing you? What if you can get that time back? If you can get a faster internet service, if you can get no downtime, you can take your downtime from 97% to 99%.
What would you pay for that?
How much more money would your company make? How much more time? How much more productive? So by asking questions like that, now you're starting to get them to walk themselves into that pain and self-realize, man, I do actually need to talk to somebody about that. So your rep has to be able to have that conversation and really have that conversation without getting too technical. Because they're not the technical person, so you don't want them to get that technical.
Their job is to open up the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I think the one of the things that you mentioned a little bit ago that I think is crucial is that data clean piece mixed with the data that's in the system, mixed with what an opportunity equates to. So one of the things that we talk a lot about here at Marketopia is that you have to actually have a solid agreed upon version of what a lead, that qualified SQL, is going to be. So what does that lead qualification criteria look like? And what is that, whether you've got it going on internally, what are you as the owner going to deem successful of once that time gets carved out on your calendar? Or if you're outsourcing it to a company like us or others, what are they thinking that success looks like? So when they serve it up to you and take that hour slot on your calendar, is it worth your time? So coming up with that, talk a little bit about that, coming up with that lead qualification criteria and what it means to take an appointment and what success should look like.
Well, I mean, the first thing you want to do is just identify with your client, or if you're doing it internally with your sales manager or whoever's running the sales team over there, and say, hey, listen, what does good look like? Is it what does our perfect customer live in? So if your perfect customer is 25 stations, and then this many servers, and this criteria, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to just back off that a little bit and give it a little bit wider of a scope, so there's more room to play to hit that. So what a lot of times what we recommend is if your sweet spot is around 20, then make the number 10. Let's go 10 and up, right? Because you'll have some companies that you might throw out that aren't exactly 20, but they might be 17 and growing.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you missed an opportunity to get in with them as they were growing and become their vendor.
Yeah. And I think one of the things about this that I find so funny is that we, as experts in the space and as tele being one of the types of services, is many times a business owner, you might even think what that sweet spot is, and you want to stand strong to it because you're like, if that time gets carved out on my calendar, I need to know that it's 25 and up, or I need to know, I'd be confident in that, or else it's not even worth it. However, we have seen and helped grow so many companies that we said, widen it just a little, see what will happen. And all of a sudden you're finding your net is picking up all these other opportunities that are companies now that you can become that expert and continue growing with. And so I think that is great. I mean, I've heard you give that advice to so many clients, and it's been extremely helpful. Even the reluctant ones that are like, nope, we're gonna stick to this number. After a while, they realize, hey, if Johnny over there and Sally over there are getting more and more and more projects and more and more recurring monthly revenue based on the fact that they open up a little wider, we should do that too. And so I think that's awesome. Now, talk to me quickly about data. So what does it look like as far as having the right type of data in a system? How much time should a caller spend on cleaning data? Tell me about that a little bit.
So
or other systems too, right, that they could use. Yeah.
So there's not going to be a real magic number of how much time they should spend cleaning. They should spend as much time as they need to make the data inside the database perfect. Yep. Right. And there really isn't such a thing as buying a perfect lead, right? Every lead is going to need somewhat of care, right? Because people do switch jobs around a lot. So you might call Chuck and it turns out Chuck just left the company 2 weeks ago. Well, there's no way a data provider is going to know that, right? So now then it's onto the rep to figure out who took Chuck's place, and then scrub that lead and replace, right? So by doing that, your database always keeps fresh and it always keeps up to date. So having that caller is not only about setting appointments, but it's also cleaning the database as well. Yep. So you're going to get really two values, and that cleaning piece is a huge value that never really gets thought of until we bring it up. Like, look, this is what they're doing for you, and your database is going to be that much better.
Absolutely, just
you're a turnover
because
caller, and really you don't want your salespeople doing that.
Talk about that actually. So this is a hot topic, and obviously as the thing that makes this tricky, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about in just a second. So the thing that makes this tricky is that as you're a growing business, you have to start making decisions about when and how someone's time should be utilized. So if you are the owner of the business, but you're also the CIO and the CTO and the CFO and the CEO, and you're all the hats, at some point in time, you've got to start giving things away and giving hats to others as you bring them on. Now, many times in a small business, if you're trying to get from that 1 million to 3 million, 3 million to 5 million, you might be trying to consolidate roles. One of which might be that your salesperson and your teleperson are the same person. So talk about that? Like, what do you feel about that? What are pros and cons? What's advice you can give about that?
Well, in our world in telemarketing, the closer and the fronter are never the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. You can go to a number of different industries, and they're just never the same people because they're not the same mind.
By design,
Totally
different people.
They're not the same person. And if you're using your closer to be your fronter as well, you're taking time away from your closer closing deals, right? So you should always have those two roles as a separate role, because when we go back to cleaning data, right? If you never want your main salesperson, your breadwinner, to be the person that's spending time cleaning databases, making outbound calls, because those calls take time. The leads take time to develop and build pipelines, and you'd be much better served to have your salesperson taking those warm leads that your fronter is putting up for you, and doing what they do best, is closing.
Absolutely. And I think that there are ways to get there, and this is why I think this is something that's important to talk about, because often what we hear, or even conversations that we'll have a lot to do with affording more people. Well, I can't really right now. I've got to have my closer being my opener, because that just is what I have to do. And one of the things that I would say we have developed products around helping businesses, if you're one of those in that space, get there, which is portions of people. And you don't have to be a partner of ours to do this. You could do this internally too, having portions of people. So having a part-time person, even though that's tough, obviously at first, but having someone that can use their time as a full focus on just opening up the opportunity, appointment setting, call, versus your closer who's going out on that appointment, crushing that appointment, doing your business justice to keep those qualified leads going down the right path of hopefully proposal, close, and client. But I think it's really important. I think that's something very cool. And there are ways, if you really do see that as an issue inside of your business, there are ways to get around it and make sure that your salesperson can stay fully focused, because it's going to do two things. It's going to build your business quicker, faster, stronger, and it's going to make your salesperson, if they are a real closer, so happy, because that's what they were born and bred to do. So it's like asking someone to do something that is really against their grain. So making sure that you position your company and you structure it properly is huge.
And also just kind of tee off what you just said too, making your salesperson happy, and also your earlier point where some people say that they just can't afford to have both roles. I would challenge that. You can't afford not to have both roles. Because what you're going to do is if that person's a real closer, if they're really that alpha personality, that's all they need to do, all they can do is close deals, and that's what they're really good at. If you're telling them that they have to do that job and do the role of a fronter and make those 100 to 200 dials a day, you're going to end up losing your salesperson to a place that they don't have to do that. Absolutely. And they have those leads already teed up for them.
Absolutely.
So
and then you're losing the cost of ramping
up,
training, getting someone else in place. So huge point. Glad you made that. The other thing I want to talk about is incenting. So I think that this is a really key point in growing a healthy team and making sure that in the roles, and we'll talk about just the tele piece of it, because we can have a whole nother show on just incenting a salesperson, but a tele salesperson. So talk through the best way to incentivize a role like that inside of a growing business, or even if it's if it's a MSP out there, a vendor, how do you incentivize?
Right. So in the business, you never really want to incentivize them based on that quantity of production, right? Because especially if we're incentivizing off that set appointment, let's say, for instance, and for MSPs and appointment setting, that rep's going to set as many appointments as they can, because that's where their incentive lies, right? But if you make that incentive based on quality and based on the progression of the lead, did it go to the next step? Did it go here? Did it close, right? And you're incentivizing those pieces separately, then you're going to find yourself a successful campaign.
Absolutely. And I think that piece, as far as back to one of the points that you made earlier about kind of where to shine that light and where they're going to focus. If you have a tele team internally right now, and if you're going, man, that makes perfect sense. I wondered why I was getting all these appointments that my calendar's booked like crazy, but I would go on them and they didn't seem that solid. Or I would go on them and I'm like, man, this was a total waste of time. And I actually have two things to say about that, because one, if someone did say that they're going to give you time and you can actually go to that appointment, there is some sort of a need there. So it's your job as a sales rep to find that need, dig it out, be an archaeologist when you get there, and find out that pain point and close them. If they're going to give you a minute of their time, if you're a good salesperson, you can dig around, build a relationship, find a need, and figure out how to maintain that relationship and to hopefully becoming a client. Now, the next part of that you were just mentioning is that if you have a incentive plan in place that is incenting the real thing that you care about, which is a quality appointment.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I know that you've implemented, even that we do here, is that a quality appointment isn't just, hey, did you feel like it went well? A quality appointment is, did a proposal go out because of the appointment that was held?
Yeah.
And there are two things. So it held. So that means great. It held. There was talking happening. There's a relationship being built. Then that next phase of, did it go to a proposal? Because that equals quality. If someone knows that there's a business need there, and if you can actually get something on paper to say, yep, this is the business need, and I would love to take it further with you, that proposal equals quality too. So I think that that's awesome. And I think that knowing what you think is quality and putting the dollars and the incentive plan to that is really key. Because you might think something else is. You might be running a webinar and registrations is your quality piece. And then you incent on the registrations. Or maybe it's not registrations, it's attendees who actually came. That's what you pay out on. So I think that's awesome. Yes, exactly.
Always attendees.
Yes, always attendees. So real quick before we wrap up, I know we could talk about tele for days.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, let's just give some, you've been in this for a long time, you're great at it. Give 3 key takeaways to someone who is either trying right now to hire that perfect rep. What do they look for? And really how to either build or outsource or what the case is. 3 quick takeaways for the team watching.
So I would say the first thing is when you're interviewing that potential fronter, the first thing you want to ask them, and before anything gets started, is, are you comfortable making 300 to 400 dials, right? You might not expect them, or even that might even be part of your metric, is for them to make that many dials, but you want to see what their face does. So did they shy away? Did they say yes, but really kind of a half-hearted yes? And if they're not willing to do 300-400 dials in a day, which is, by the way, a lot, right? So it's probably too many.
Right.
But if they're not willing to at least do that, then they're probably not a good fit, right? Because then you back it down, and then you're going to do 100 to 200, and that's really, again, going to be their comfort zone.
Yeah,
right?
awesome.
So if you're not, so you have to watch their facial expression, because everyone's going to tell you yes to get a job. So I would say that's probably the biggest one going on. But just ask them, are you willing to make these phone calls, right? And then from there, make sure you're putting enough confidence in your appointment center, right? Not every day is going to be successful. Your appointment center is not going to be able to find an appointment every single day, right? Some do. We have some that do, but it's not likely. So if they don't have one today, the next day just let them know, hey, listen, no big deal. Today you'll get 2, or tomorrow you'll get 3. But no matter what, it's always going to average out. So make sure you're constantly reassuring them and putting that success for them. And then the third thing, just make it fun. Right, this is it's a special kind of person that does telemarketing. Resilient and amazing. So, if you want to keep that person that's doing a good job for you, make it fun for them. Have special incentives and bonuses and spiffs and things that are fun, right? Not just cash. Everywhere does cash. Think outside the box and make things fun for them. And if you do that, then the monotonous of the job, the daily grind goes away, because it's a fun place to work.
Absolutely. I think those are great nuggets. And he definitely does a good job of that, whether it's Christmas presents or promotional things that we do, and always keeping it creative and fun, or days to wear different things, and keeping everyone engaged. So thank you so much. I hope you got something that you can take away, put into action right now as far as outbound marketing and tele is concerned. And we will talk to you soon.